Every human needs a personal plan.
Okay.
And without it, you're lost. I burnt out, I got chronic fatigue. I didn't know who I was without my job. I was in corporate sport. I saw all of the athletes fall. Who are you without your club or your team? So there was such purpose and such depth to go and study. I don't think people have really even had a coach themselves to even start that process.
What is an example that you can do with me here to help me arrive at the process?
So
Shannah Kennedy is a global best-selling author of The Life Plan and Plan B. Beyond coaching, Shannah is a dynamic keynote speaker and workshop facilitator, delivering invigorating talks on leadership, well-being, and life design to large audiences. What's a singular practice that someone can do that if they start doing it today, they are guaranteed to improve their life?
it has to be the 3 breaths. So you can be doing that in the supermarket queue, when you're washing your hands, when you wake up, because the one thing that you can do to change your state is change your breath.
Shannah, you were one of Australia's first life coaches. Now, in the last 20 years since you've been doing this, what do you say to those critics?
Well, I think...
Shannah, you were one of Australia's first life coaches. Now, in the last 20 years since you've been doing this, there's been a lot of life coaches come on the scenes, and there seems to be this growing perception that life coaching is kind of a made-up role of a bunch of people that have kind of called themselves experts, but they've really just become experts in signing people up to their life coaching program. What do you say to those critics?
Well, I think they're half right, I have to say. So if you think of it like personal training, the first personal trainers were really high performance Olympic coaches. And then there was personal trainers that did a lot of training, built incredible gyms, people like Craig Harper who, built empires around it and really were the real deal. And now, people can get their PT license in 6 months. So I think what's happened is quite similar with life coaching. Like I studied for 3 years. I was around high performance. I was really the first person to start these life plans that you are not your job. And the only reason I started that was because it happened to me. I burnt out. I got chronic fatigue. I didn't know who I was without my job. I was in corporate sport. I saw all of the athletes fall. Who are you without your club or your team? So there was such purpose and such depth to go and study. Whereas I think now what's happened is every man and his dog's written a book. Every man and his dog wants to be a coach. Every man and his dog wants to be a consultant and a mentor. But I don't think people have done the study. I don't think people have really even had a coach themselves to even start that process. So I get a coach myself every 3 years to know what it feels like to be on the other side. It's a little bit like being a personal trainer, but you don't train yourself or you don't have a coach yourself. So I think there's a very big distinction between real coaches and wannabe coaches.
There's a lot there.
I'm quite a cynic myself, I think.
Hey, well, I consider myself probably a skeptic because I need the evidence before I will align and say, go for it. But I want to align and go for it. I just want the evidence. I sort of feel that you're probably more skeptic than cynic from what I've seen. And the reason I say that is because a cynic doesn't want to be turned around in their views, whereas a skeptic is willing to.
Yes.
So how does someone from the outside world, well, this world that we're part of, how do they even identify if they're a candidate for life coaching?
Well, it's a great question. So a lot of people come to me usually in a moment of, I need clarity. I've got a lot of options ahead of me and I'm not sure which one to take. So I need an outside influence to come and sit down with me and unpack my mind. So a lot of them don't know their own values to start with. So we're not taught that at school. We can maybe read it in a book, but when you sit down and really hash down the 3 most important things to you in your life, they become your lighthouse. So the first thing I always ask an Olympian is, who are you without your job and what do you value? And really they're the core. So that's how we start. And there's people who are really successful that I work with who want fine tuning.
This sounds like there's going to be some really great value here, right? So why should someone that's just picked this up, that's sort of hearing this about life coaching, why should they listen to the next like 30 to 45 minutes, do you think?
Because you can't afford not to. It's like if you're feeling like you're a hamster on the wheel in life and you're just getting up every day, you're going to work, you're doing the same thing, you're driven, you want results, you're an achievement junkie, there's a lot more to life than that. It's a little bit like you're an athlete on the track. Why do I want a coach? To fine-tune you so you go even higher, so that you have more fulfillment in your job, and so you have clarity and great purpose and great direction, and you really know who you are, where you're going and how you're going to get there. And that clarity all leads to incredible confidence. And you've got the self-awareness, you've got a self-leadership plan, you've got a management plan, and it's all about you. It's not about your business, it's actually about you, because the person is the asset of the business.
So I like the comment that you've said before that you are not your job, but what are you when you take your job away?
Yeah.
Because like I imagine a lot of people would be left with a bit of a void there.
Exactly. So you think of someone like Buddy Franklin. Who is Buddy Franklin without Sydney Swans Football Club? If they haven't done the work to really know what's most important to them, what their values are, what their plans are for life after sport, what they're curious about, what they're interested in, what their hobby is, what they want to learn so that they grow and evolve, and what are the words that help them see that they are so much more than their job, they get really lost. And so do we. Corporates do too. Who is Peter without Macquarie Bank? They think their skills are not transferable because they've identified with their role the whole time. So it's really building that deep confidence, that foundation of self, so that you can move around life and see that your job is a ride that you're getting on every day and you're getting off, but you're building the life that you don't need to escape from. So it's exciting. It's getting you in the driver's seat. It's getting you to punch in the GPS. It's getting you to create a vision. It's asking you to think about your 10-year-older version of yourself and how do you want to feel and what do you want to have achieved and what do you want to learn and what excites you. And when you get all of that in front of you, life comes to life. You know, it's not just same old, same old. So I really feel that when I look around people in the crowd at the football or in the shopping centre, I'm like, wow, you don't have that life to you, you know, you don't look like you're on purpose or living with intention, or you're just sort of surviving.
That's one of the most relevant things that we can be discussing right now in 2025 when we're recording this. We're in the age of AI, there's no doubt about that. That I doubt they'll be calling it anything different than that when we look back in 10 or more years. Like this is very much that transition. We had internet around 2000. Then we had the social media, sort of personal devices explosion.
Yes.
You know, then we've
changed the world.
Yeah, that definitely changed the world. And this era that we're in now, it's like a combination of AI and personal brands. You know, now with personal brands, they're very much the person, not the company. So there is some confusion around that as well. So when you talk about these techniques you've got of stripping away the job and seeing what remains, or the work and seeing what remains, I imagine that would be a daunting process for people.
It's a little confronting. So, you know, if I use you for an example.
Yes, please feel free. I want to bring massive listener and viewer value here. You are a subject matter expert. This isn't like someone that's got this title. Literally, when you started in life coaching, the only other name I can think of that would even fit in that category would be Tony Robbins.
Yep.
So like that's the era. You've come through the formative era. You're now like an OG in that without the O being bad.
Yeah.
And so what is an example that you can do on with me here to help me arrive at the process?
So when we think of you and we think of what lights you up and what's most important to you, what would be the first thing that you think is the most important thing to you in the world today?
Creation. Yeah. I like creating things that can be of value to many, many people. And I like to be involved in bringing something to life that its core elements might have been there, but the way I've assembled it is now I've made some sort of value.
So one of your values is creativity. So you can write that down.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
But let me guide you. Let me guide you somewhere else. And for every listener, the first most important thing is the person. So you can't be creative if you don't have health. And health isn't, do you feel great today or do I look great today? Health is actually physical health, how you eat, how you move, how you sleep, and how you breathe. So there's 4 beautiful buckets there. And what you can do is fine-tune them every single year for the rest of your life, and that's your purpose. Because you've got the vehicle to look after. You can't run it down. You can't have flat tires. You're the Ferrari here. So how you eat, how you move, how you sleep, and how you breathe is really the base for you to be a creative person. The second base of health is your mental health, and that is, what are you telling yourself? So in the world of AI and the world of doom and gloom and we can't control the world and cost of living and blah, blah, I don't hear any of that. I hear, let today be easy and effortless. Let today be light and joyful. Let this interaction just be a beautiful, magical moment in my life of sharing this hour with you in my life. It is what you train the brain. So what are your affirmations that are helping you feel how you want to feel?
So how do I train my brain to do that when I've got a talky brain, right? And I'm okay with that.
Everyone does, and everyone's got an inner critic.
Yes.
Okay, so your brain is driving around in the car just going, whoa, roundabout and seeing all these different things. There's no GPS. The brain needs some instructions. And it's a really lazy thing, the brain too. So it likes to revert back to some old things as well, some old habits and some old ways of thinking. So I need to train my brain to say, I'm open to receiving, and where my focus goes, my energy flows. There's all of these little hooks in there to hold me up to be the best version of myself today. So it's all trained in.
So these are hooks that you're putting in the brain?
Yes, I'm putting them in.
I imagine like this is kind of like what's coming up for me here. It's like operating instructions. So like when you use ChatGPT on most of the models, you know, and you start a new project.
Yes.
And it's like, what are your custom instructions?
Type them in,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. So these are the things that we rely on.
We need to be in charge of our brain a little bit.
Yep.
Right? It's too powerful. Like AI, very powerful. We need to train it a little bit so that we get the result that we want. So when we then put that on a vision board and we see it every day, it becomes a part of your life. It changes who you are.
You mentioned vision board.
Yeah.
And thank you for this wonderful gift. I'm just going to show it here. I'll get into the specifics of the business side of this later because there's a cool angle here from a business point of view. But what I love about this, it's a vision board kit, right?
Yes.
And I've been to that many conferences where vision boards have been shown. And I'm like, yeah, I want to do that. Now, I've had vision boards. Don't get me wrong. I've done it. But I would say for every one I've wanted to create, I've probably created 1 out of 20 of them because when I go to source the images, the cutouts, whatever, I get so distracted during that process that I'm like, this doesn't feel like my vision anymore. This feels like an admin job of where I'm looking at all the things I haven't done today.
And you're a creative soul, right? So because you like creativity, we need to look at your vision board with just colour and excitement and growth and creativity. So what happens is the reason that I'm talking about this is all from experience with my first coach and also coming from being around elite athletes my whole life.
Yes. What did you learn from being around elite athletes your whole life?
That if it's not up on the board, you will forget.
Okay. All right. This is a key moment.
Yeah. So if you can't see it, you can't be it.
Ooh.
If you can't see the words that you're trying to put in here every single day, because it's a beast of a thing and it needs programming every day, and if you can't see the images that are making you feel how you want to feel, or the bucket list up there or whatever, you just haven't opened your frontal cortex at all. So if you decide to get married, you'll start seeing weddings everywhere. If you decide to buy a Mini Cooper, you see Mini Coopers everywhere. It's the same. So we need the visual. So that all came from high performance. So at this minute, you're my athlete.
Yes.
Because everyone listening is an athlete. You're an athlete of life and you're an athlete of business. And we need to pace the race. Okay, so if you're an athlete, we need to honour the asset, which is the athlete, how they eat, how they move, how they sleep, how they breathe. You're the same. The second one, your mental health. They're programming their brain of how they want to show up and that they have the ability to win. The third one is their emotional heart space. And that's how you feel: kindness, compassion, empathy, joy, gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
There's no point winning and feeling lonely. There's no point creating all of this amazing stuff and you don't have any gratitude for a sale or a listener. If one person buys that, amazing. If one person listens to us and we give them something for life, amazing. So that gratitude and living a life of gratitude is actually a practice. And the more that you celebrate, the more you have to celebrate. So it just keeps coming. And then there's spiritual health, which is, realizing that you belong to something greater than yourself here. So you can have perspective. So I always say to my clients, and I've had over 1,000 now, that, and really as a high-performing human and as an athlete of life, if you do not have health as your first value and see that every single point we just raised is your purpose for the rest of your life, to learn about it, to feed it, to understand it, to fine-tune yourself. What I was eating at 20 is very different to 55. I was running 50K challenges in my 30s. I'm not doing that at 55. I'm about to walk the Camino. Like different. Like you've got to fine-tune. You can't just keep going the same. You've got to really think about what's happening in your life, in your body, and keep, getting the max out of it. I would say your first one is health.
Okay. So my first one, so are you giving me like sort of a diagnosis now that my first one is health?
Yes.
And that is because I want to keep creating, and in order to keep creating, I need to have my health as optimal. My health is going to be made up of the asset being my body.
Yes.
And also my brain and mind and what I'm feeding my mind, the emotions in my heart that I can experience.
Can't be creative
and feel.
if you're sad.
Sorry?
You can't be creative if
I'm sad.
If your heart's blocked. You can't flow. You can't find flow. And you know how you talk about flow and what flow means to you? Flow means to me that I know who I am, where I'm going, how I'm going to get there, so I can enjoy the ride and I can flow with flexibility, because we'll always get a curveball.
Yeah,
and that's why we need a high performance plan, so that we can be flexible.
Who I am. This is your definition of flow. I like this because it's like it really is on track. Who I am.
Yep, I know who I am.
Where I'm
going.
Yeah.
How I'm going to get there.
Yeah.
So now I can release and enjoy the ride.
Yes.
And flow.
Yes.
So you've punched into the sat nav, who I am, where I'm going, how I'm going to get there. Now I can enjoy the drive. If I didn't have that and I'm driving, I'm constantly worried and high cortisol that I'll miss something, I'll miss a turn off. Where am I going again? I've forgotten. The brain needs a roadmap. It needs a blueprint, and that's high performance. And that's what a very good life coach should be creating with you.
There seems to be a lot more structure to your life coaching than I've heard from a lot of others.
Yes.
And it's almost like some of them are getting into this kind of, in psychology, how there's clinical psychology where you're kind of fixing something that's broken. And then there's developmental psychology where we're sort of like developing them towards their purpose and potential, which is much more aligned to what we're talking about with life coaching.
Yes, yes.
So I hear a lot of themes come through in life coaching, around broken, around trauma, and I'm going to fix you like there's some guru that's going to come in and know a formula that you don't, and without me you can't.
So
what do you say to that?
I would say I don't want to fix someone. I want to plan the future. I want to get their eyes off the ground and lift their eyes up and look at something that they can go and attain. So we can reframe the trauma. If you've done your work with the counsellor, then you can reframe the trauma. We can retrain the brain with the affirmations that are going to lift you up and keep you moving forward. But if you don't have a plan, guess what the brain's going to do? It's always going to go backwards because it's easy. So it needs a structure.
Yeah, okay.
If you grow a tomato plant, you need to have stakes in the sand and you need to tie it up. Otherwise, it falls over the minute the wind comes.
Yeah, and it's going to grow, but it's going to grow across the ground. Yeah. It's going to be random, and it's going to be susceptible to pests. It's going to be susceptible to rotting and to getting sunburn in the wrong spaces and leaves getting covered. So it's not like it can't grow. It's just it won't grow in an optimized way.
Correct.
So life coaching is about the optimized way.
Life coaching is let's tie it up with some really great habits that you see every day on your vision board to remind you of the map. Let's set some really great goals. Let's feed the soil every single day, which is your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. So the soil's nice and rich. Let's trim off all the things that no longer serve us, the dead branches, and let's keep tying it up into a vision, which is where you want the tomato plant to grow, which is your 10-year-older self. We then pick the tomatoes and be very careful who you give them to. Do we have the disease to please and wasting a lot of our energy and giving them to everyone? Or are we giving them on purpose with intention because we have a plan? And do we have boundaries and close the fence and let the tomato plant breathe and recover? It's really simple. I'm going to write a book about that.
I think there's a book in that. You've had 2 bestsellers already. I reckon there's another one.
It's coming. So I think that when people think life coach, they think they just want to talk to somebody. I'm definitely probably not that coach. I am a life coach. This is your life we're talking about. This needs a plan. It needs a map. It needs some instruction. It needs support. And we need to build it together to suit you. And if creativity is so important to you, we want to bring creativity in everything you do. The way that you get out of bed, the way that you do your weights, the way you do your finances. You know, we need to put a creative slant on that in your brain so you look forward to it. So it's colourful. They're your fun vouchers we're going to go and have a look at.
Fun vouchers. Yeah. Yes, I love this terminology. Is that in this kit? Is a fun voucher in there somewhere?
So we want to use what's so unique about you, and we want to build an incredible document, which is your high-performance personal plan, that lights you up and you feel on purpose, and that's when you get your flow.
There's so much for me right now. So many places I could go with this.
So, for example, recovery is flow. You know, when people say, I'm in flow, I'm doing all of this stuff.
Yeah.
When I'm lying down at night with my legs up the wall watching TV, I'm in flow. I am in proper recovery.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And doing proper stretching. That's part of flow too. Or even just having a 20-minute nap in the afternoon is part of my flow state because it's really helping that tomato plant rest, or it's really helping me rejuvenate so that I have enough energy for, you know, kids' dinner.
I resonate really strongly with this. I heard a term not that long ago that you're not burnt out, you are under-recovered. And there's people that haven't actually designed recovery into their process for the level of performance that they're wanting to have in their life. And it's a constant evolution, of course. Like, you know, if you think about efficiency and effectiveness, you know, effectiveness is getting things done, you know, getting the right things done, right? And then efficiency is getting them done right.
Correct.
You know, so like you can obsess over efficiency and become OCD and get nothing done. Or you can go the other way and go, yeah, move fast, break shit and do lots, but then there's all this collateral damage, like that show.
So if you're an athlete, so mark the athlete here.
Yes.
That we've got in
Athlete
front of us
life.
here. Athlete of life, athlete of business, athlete of creativity. So if you think of an athlete that's out training every day and occasionally does an Olympic, so your big stuff, you know, your big projects, or your Olympics, and they don't recover afterwards, or if they've got a little, you know, meet over there where they're doing 100-metre sprint, they don't then go back to training. No, they recover. So we need to teach people to build recovery in as a high-performance habit so that they don't burn out, because life's a marathon. We need to pace. Don't need to do it all this year. And when you have a performance plan, a life plan, it allows you to pace, because it allows you to see over the next 10 years, you don't need to jam everything into this year. You can actually space it a little bit and enjoy it, you know. So Matthew McConaughey had this amazing speech when he won his Oscar for the Dallas Buyers Club.
Mm-hmm.
And he said his role model was his 10-year older version of yourself.
I love that. God, he's so insightful,
So
isn't he?
how old are you now? Were you allowed to say
43.
that? 43.
Yeah.
Okay. So your 53-year-old self,
Yes.
which is my age, I'm 54. It's asking yourself today, what am I doing today for my 53-year-old self?
Mm-hmm.
What choice did I make today for that person? Oh, I had a nap, right? Or I said no to that because it was going to be too much. Or I had one less coffee, or I had an alcohol-free night. That's all serving the 10-year-older version of yourself.
Is that one of your questions that you've got to prime yourself with to keep you on track?
Every day.
Every day. What choices am I going to make today that are going to serve my 10-year-old self?
Yeah, so if I'm at a sale at Myer and I see some more towels, for example, I've got towels, right? And I'm going, oh, I really like that colour. My 10-year-older self has already switched in going, no more towels. You want those fun vouchers for your Antarctic trip.
Unless your fun vouchers are part of the Linen Buyers Club, not the Dallas Buyers Club.
So you know, there was such reason for me not to have retail therapy because, you know, tomorrow I'm flying to Spain to walk part of the Camino, and I'm going to Paris, and I've got my favourite little Mini Cooper out there. I'm like, I'm living my life because of the choices I made to serve this. Now, I learned a lot of this in my late 20s and early 30s. So I've been practicing this for 20 years. It didn't just come overnight. There's a lot of depth there. And it comes from, you know, working with really great coaches. It comes from working with high-performing humans and elite athletes and CEOs.
I'd love to hear on that topic there. Who's an example, if you can say, of a very high-performing individual, whether business, whether athlete, that you've worked with that taught you some really meaningful lessons we can share here?
Well, I worked with Colleen Callender, who was the CEO of Sports Girl. I worked with Kerry Pothast, who won the volleyball gold medal, 2000 Olympics.
Ah, yes.
And I've worked with, I'm not allowed to divulge many names because it's like going to the doctor. It's a very private thing.
Yeah, I get that. I know some people that are in high-performance coaching roles for big sporting teams and they're not even allowed to talk about their role. They're not even on the they're nowhere to be seen.
Lots of footballers, cricketers, swimmers.
Well, let's go with the gold medalists, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I want to get on to Colleen after this because you end up with a really...
There's Lauren Burns, who won gold too with Taekwondo.
Was that at the Sydney Olympics? Yes, yeah, because I went and watched the Taekwondo at the Sydney Olympics. Because I was doing a lot of martial arts at the time and it was like we went down with a bunch of people.
Okay, so every person, whether they're a CEO, an elite athlete, a stay-at-home mum, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you are. We're all athletes. It's, do you have a plan that supports you? And do you have a plan that holds you up, like the stakes of the tomato plant? And I think that, unfortunately, we're never taught any of that at school. We're not taught boundaries. We're not taught values. We're not taught to identify our strengths and the shadow side of our strengths. You're a really kind person. That's a great strength, but you'll get taken advantage of if you use it too much. So my strength is honesty. If I use it too much, I might offend people. So you've got to really, this self-awareness piece is really what I work with people on, to really work with them, not give them answers, work with them. So to really ask you the questions of, if you had a vision board up there, say you did your vision board and it had your values of health, you know, physical, mental, emotional and spiritual and creativity right in the middle, and you saw that every day, like I do on my mirror, and have had for 20 years. My husband always says, are we ever rubbing this stuff off? Like, never.
Is it the same messages for 20 years?
Same.
Wow.
I just keep adding.
Yeah,
so the whole mirror is full.
How big's your mirror?
Huge.
Are we talking a room?
So think about this. It's this slow fertilizer going into the tomato plant.
Yeah.
Right? One thing at a time. So my role model was Roger Federer.
Okay. What a beautiful individual.
I know. So 25 years ago, I was an achievement junkie, A-type, burnout, chronic fatigue, depression, like I'm nothing unless I'm achieving. And I really put him on my board first.
Why was that?
Because I love the way he showed up with calm grounded confidence. And I was a bit Nick Kyrgios-like.
Okay.
You know?
This is good. This is
Okay.
actually really good. We're going to have a lot of A-type personalities on here. Aspirational people are listening and watching right now. So this Kyrgios type, the bad boy, the I'm too good for training versus the hungry and humble Federer.
Yes. So not to bag Nick Kyrgios, but I'm just giving an example of perception.
Yeah.
Perception is, you know, I wouldn't think Nick Kyrgios could look at the mirror with grace and really love who he was, but I think Roger could. So I'm just making this up because this is the story that I've built to help change me, the person. So I said, I actually want to show up in life like Roger. I want to be calm, confident, grounded. And what's the one thing he does that Nick does not? Breathe. So when Roger's losing, he's just breathing. When Nick's losing, he's throwing his racket. So I want to be Roger. I want to be Roger. So what I did is put his face up on the vision board, but on the mirror it said 3 breaths. And every single time you wash your hands, which is 6-7 times a day in the bathroom, you get the opportunity to be a high-performing athlete, like they do with their tennis breaks and go to the bathroom, and take 3 breaths. And you're going to calm your nervous system down. You're going to make a better decision when you walk out. You're going to type a different message when you walk out because you've come down from your heat or whatever is going on in your head.
Being triggered.
And you're going to ground yourself and you're going to walk with grace. And so just that one thing and putting that on my mirror, putting 3 breaths on my car dashboard on a sticky note is how I started at 30 years old to try and train myself to never burn out ever again. Because I'd already burnt out. I married my job, worked 7 days a week. So I was like, I need to do this differently. And I worked with my coach to build a high-performing human that never burnt out, that could have a family, be really fit, stay married, produce great material, and enjoy life. That was the goal.
That's what you decided was your goal when you worked with the coach. I imagine you wouldn't have come in with it being that clear. That's more the outcome.
Well, I was a burnt-out mess in the corner.
Okay, take us to that moment. When did you realise you were a burnt-out mess in the corner?
Because I couldn't get out of bed. I had full chronic fatigue, so I couldn't drive my car. I couldn't turn the lights on. Lights would burn my eyes, my ears. I couldn't have any noise, no TV, no music, no nothing.
This is symptoms of chronic fatigue because I want to take our listeners and viewers, like you hear chronic fatigue. I've heard it on stages. I've heard it on podcasts, you know, and a lot of the stuff I did with NLP and psychology models. You hear about chronic fatigue, but what is it like for the person?
For the person, it is the most depressing, horrible, soul-destroying thing that you can experience because you look fine. So nobody, and this is 30 years ago, so no one had heard of that either.
Well, they probably just said, you better sook, get back to work.
Correct. But I couldn't even get up. I couldn't function. It was like I had the worst hangover you've ever had in your life, but you haven't had a drink.
Oh, what a punishment that is. That's unfair.
It's so unfair. And you can't get your head off the pillow and you can't exercise. And that's when I got a coach. That was my first time of getting a coach. And I thought, I don't need a psychologist. I need to unpack my brain that is so wired for achievement. And I need to know who I am without my job because I'm not working now and I do not like it. So I need to fall in love with self first and then build moving forward. And that's actually why I got a coach.
That's still a very self-aware position to be in for someone who finds himself in that situation.
Well, I'd watched athletes go through it, you know, when they got dropped from the team, when they got injured, when the age policy came in at the cricket and if you're over 35 you can't play in the Australian team even though you're fantastic. And I watched the destruction of lives. I'd seen it firsthand because I was in corporate sport. So I thought, wow, it doesn't just happen to athletes. It happens to people. It happens to people in business when they get retrenched. It happens to all of us and nobody has anything to catch them. Yeah. And that's when the cookie dropped or whatever you call it, dropped. Yeah. And I thought, okay, I'm working with a coach, I'm rebuilding. I want to be the coach. And that's when I started to study. And so the first thing was, Shannah, you need to retrain your brain because it's destructive and it's expecting too much. So you need to start putting things on the mirror. You need to learn to go to the mirror like Roger with kindness and say, you're feeling terrible today. You can't even walk to the letterbox. Let's make the goal just to get to the letterbox, not to get back to work, to get to the letterbox. And so it was amazing. And I started to build new wording in my brain to really help find more fulfillment rather than achievement.
There's something powerful in the way that this is assembled, this formula, this kind of system. Like and I'm a systems guy, so I'm like, I like it when there's something that actually connects the dots together. So I've heard you talk about the words are very important because the word is kind of heard, it's read, you know, like it's resonating. Yeah. And then you've got the visual side as well. Now, playing devil's advocate for just a second on this, how does this work for people who aren't visual in nature or learn? You know how there's kinesthetic learners, there's auditory learners, there's auditory digital, you know, visual is a part of it.
We're not learning. What we're doing is building.
Right.
So if you're not a visual person, does that mean you don't use a GPS in the car?
Yeah.
Okay, so people love to box themselves.
Yeah.
What we're doing is building your roadmap to feel how you want to feel.
Yes.
And so the brain just needs a constant reminder of turn left here, you know, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And so for 20 years on the mirror, another word comes up or another word comes up or, you know, feel the fear and do it anyway or, approach the day with let it be easy and effortless.
Yeah.
Because I like to think, you know, I'm going to talk to 1,000 people. Oh, it's going to be so hard and I'm going to be so judged. And why don't you just let it be easy? Just get out of your head. Just get out of your way. So a lot of joy and lightness. Like there's words up there that are powerful to me. You know,
they've got to be your words though, right?
Correct. So they've got to be your words. I've got to be your words. So you might listen to a podcast and go, oh, I love that phrase. Now you've got somewhere to put it. Or you might read a book and say, I love that word, up it goes. And that's how you build your plan. So if we take all of that off the mirror, I reckon I'd go backwards 10 years.
Yeah, well, that's
because I see it every day.
Yes. Yeah, so look, I'm glad you've been able to clear that up because I've heard that said before about like, you know, the pictures and that's not me. Whereas like you said, people do box themselves in and say, well, that doesn't apply to me because. Now, I imagine that's something that you come across in life coaching a bit. Like when you first, you know, have your discovery session with someone you've been referred to, and I know you're in great demand now. You're getting referred by a lot of your successful clients, over 1,000 of them. Yeah. So when you first have this first catch up with someone, how many of those people do you feel just don't want to be helped?
Some don't want to be helped. They just want to chat to someone, I think, but they're not the right people for me. So I will give them as many tools as I can and resources and then let them go. But someone that wants to do the work and gets really excited about their life and says, I want to be the driver. I don't want to be the passenger. I'd like to know where I'm going. Well, we buckle in and we have a fantastic time.
How do you inspire that excitement? Like not everyone's going to get to see you personally, but some of our people that are really wired for bringing this into their own life will probably also be bringing it into other people around them in one way or another. And I love it. The stuff you have is so actionable.
Yeah.
The topic I'm talking about here is it's not so much that the person doesn't want to be helped. They're just of the view that nothing has worked so far, so this won't. So why am I participating anyway? How do we break through that?
Well, they've got a fixed mindset rather than a growth mindset. So if it's fixed, you have to wait for them to break a little bit and then they'll come because they want to grow. They want to get out of it. And through mud, the lotus is born. So sometimes people have to go down a little bit and have enough of feeling the way that they feel to make a change.
Is that challenging for you to let them feel more of that? Like, you know, especially if it's like time sensitive, they're kind of crashing and burning, but they can't admit it, but you've got to kind of let it unfold further so they actually want to participate. How do you deal with that?
Well, you want to hold their hand and make the fall, you know, as soft as possible. But most importantly, I want to keep their eyes up. I want them moving forward. You know, I like what's the next town on the map?
Yeah.
You know, and you might change your mind, but your brain needs something to hold on to or it will catastrophize. You know how the brain loves to catastrophize and overanalyze? What a waste of time that is when it could be looking up and getting excited.
Yeah, well, I think your comments before, like the brain needs work to do. Or I've
It's
read
like
that
you're
in some of
booking a
your
holiday.
literature.
Like, when did you last book a holiday?
We book a few. So it's part of my life to be designing that regularly.
And often it's the booking and the lead up to the holiday where the joy is.
The
There's
anticipation.
so much joy.
Yeah.
I can't wait to go, and I'm going to go shopping for this, and I'm going to visualize that and plan that. And then you experience the holiday, and then you get joy from the memory. Okay, it's the same. If you have a life plan, you're excited about the next 10 years because you've thought about your 53rd birthday and how you want to show up and all the things that you want to have learnt and done and where you want to be financially and how you want to feel.
Yeah.
You're excited.
Absolutely.
But then you've also got something to reflect upon because it's all been recorded in your life plan. So you can look back and you can say, geez, what a decade that was. But right now, if you haven't got a plan and you look back, you can't see. You've forgotten.
I resonate with the reviewing the life plan of former. Like when I first got into NLP as a student in 2005, and I did 2 solid years. And when I say hard years, it was like intense 3-hour sessions at a time. I would always walk out totally fatigued. But, and that's what my coach at the time, Richard Ford, said. He said, you got to walk out of this door different than the way you walked in. And every time it was. And I got into mind mapping around the same time. And I still, to this day, most of my discussions with myself are a mind map. And there's no hierarchy in a mind map. It's all in those bent lines.
But if you think of yourself over the last 10 years, and I could give you a list of everywhere you went on holiday, where you've been financially, what you've done with your career, if you have kids, where your kids have been, like for me. So my kids are 19 and 20. Since the day they were born, there is a full record, only just on one bit of paper, of every place they've been, when they had their braces, when they broke their arm, how much they weighed there at birth, and what school they went to, and what soccer team they played for, and what award they won. Here you go, kids. That's your life story. It's so easy. It's so easy because every year you're just going, this is all the things that happened this year. And you can then keep looking forward. So having a high-performance life plan allows you to reflect.
Yes.
But also keep you excited about the future. It's like the map of Australia, and you look at all the places we drove to.
Yeah, look at all the pins.
Yeah, look at all the pins.
Yeah.
But now look at all the things that we've marked that we want to get to.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
And I suppose that's where I was going with that. I had a little bit of a blank, but then I just realised that what I loved, I was cleaning out a study of this penthouse we'd lived in for like 5 or 6 years. It was time to move into the other property because the kids were getting older. And I was with a friend of mine in the personal development industry, and he's found this wad of paper with all my coloured mind maps on it. And he's like, hey, Kenny, do you want these? And I've gone back and looked at them, and I'm like, these are my mind maps from like 05, 06, 07. And like they had each day's date on them.
Yeah.
And he's gone, has any of this stuff come true? Now, at the top of mine, I used to have my accomplishments, which were kind of like near term, like, in the next sort of 3 months. And then I had these kind of dream goals that were like really BHAG style.
Yeah.
I looked at the top and I'm like, tick, 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 tick. Like it was a high percentage, right? But then I looked at the bottom and I was blown away. Like just how close to the goal that I had set for these BHAGs, these big, hairy, audacious goals that I could barely even imagine how close the reality ended up being. So I suppose what it gave me is a lot of reinforcement that not only is this process worth it, but the power I have to create my own reality.
Oh, yes. And it must be written.
Yes.
It must be written. It can't even be typed. It has to be going through your fingers, through your
Why is
pen.
that? I want to hear that. Yeah, I've heard stuff on this. I want to hear your take.
So when I type things, it's very transactional. It feels like work. But as you're drawing here, you're drawing beautiful mind maps with your pen, and you've got curves and words and arrows. You are bringing to life what we're talking about. When we're typing it, it's not coming to life. It's actually not.
It's going through a lot of filters, isn't it?
And so when you look at it, it actually looks exciting and it looks fun and it looks creative and colourful. And so you have a different emotion.
I'd like to do something live. I haven't really done it this way before. I want to get out my flip charty thing. I want to put it here. I don't know if the cameras are going to see it, but I'd like you to help show this mirror exercise so our viewers and listeners can take this home with them. Would you be willing to do that with us?
Yes, love to. I love working with creative people because I never thought I was a creative person, but people look at my mirror and go, that's so creative.
Well, the funny thing is too, like, you know, I think the sectors that I had been in, being engineering and then real estate, property, development, systems, people probably thought similar about me. It's cold, it's capital, it's kind of like it's about transactions or money. Whereas really what I've always loved is the business systems and the game plan. So let's see what we can do here. So
Okay,
what am I going to do?
So the first thing that we ever do when we go to the mirror is we want to reaffirm what's most important to us. So your brain makes decisions based on that. So the first thing that you need to write smack in the middle, big, is health.
Yes. Okay. Just that word itself?
Yeah, health with physical, mental, emotional and spiritual underneath.
Okay. So we're going to go physical. I'd like to do this as a box actually. Physical. I'll go like that. Physical, mental.
Emotional.
Spiritual. And spiritual. Yep. That's right there in the middle.
Great. And we want the next one underneath to be.
Can I circle it or?
Yep.
Like this?
Yep. Beautiful.
Yep.
And we want under here creativity.
So underneath?
Yep. Fantastic. Circle that one too.
I can circle that too. That's going to bring a sort of attention.
Yep. And
it.
what do you think your third one is? Most important to you. You're stripped bare.
Yep. I keep coming back to something to do with collaboration or community. Like it's some sort of like forming of a tribe of like-minded people that together are creating something of value for others, like legacy, paying it forward, collaboration, community.
That's part of your creativity.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you say you've got children?
Yes.
Yes. Family?
Yes. Oh, these are huge for me. I just didn't know if these were kind of like traits I was looking for or something.
No.
Yeah, cool. So I can just write family above, below.
Yeah, below.
Below, okay.
Circle that.
Yeah.
So family means not is my family happy because we can't make our kids happy, really. There's a lot going on.
We can't make anyone happy, can we?
Make anyone. You can't even make your partner happy. Happiness is an inside job.
It's an inside choice,
So family means how do you want to show up for your kids? So I want to be non-judgmental, safe. How do I want to show up as a wife? I want to be fun and inspiring. So I don't always feel like that, but I have to practice that.
Yes.
How do I want to show up for my clients? 100% present.
So am I writing how I want to show up here or anything like that?
No, but that's what it means.
Okay,
right? That's what it means. Great. So now they're the big guiding lights. And then around it now we put the words that are really important to you. So are there any like little catchphrases that you love, bumper stickers that you love? Like one of mine is where your focus goes, your energy flows.
Yes. And the thing that you're focused on grows.
Yes. So you might write up there where my focus goes, my energy flows.
Yeah. I focus goes.
My energy flows.
I also have one that I say a lot, like I'm a maker, not a taker. So I can put that up there. Yeah.
You don't have to circle those.
Okay.
Maker,
all right,
not
good
a
to
taker.
know. Oops, sorry about that.
What else have you got?
I'm trying to think of the one-liners that I have.
Yeah, no, that's good. So this is what I sit with people and think about.
What about like, because breath is under health, right?
I would say 3 breaths.
Yeah, okay.
For me, because that's my Roger.
Yeah, because I had
thing.
like biology, psychology, environment. I like that trilogy to be in place. So I could just draw that basically, biology, psychology, environment, because I know what that means.
So I have little sticky notes on my soap bottles that say 3 breaths. So I never, ever forget to ground myself and feed my nervous system. And that's better than any meditation, any pill, anything. If you take 18 conscious breaths a day, really deep Roger Federer style conscious breaths, you will make very different decisions. You will show up for family differently, show up for clients differently, show up here differently. you will bring your creativity in and you'll make great choices.
Yeah.
So the 3 breaths is my master. It is my everything. So that's up there as well. So when you think of things that are just non-negotiable for you, or a mindset like growth versus fixed,
yes,
to keep triggering you to get out of fixed and into growth, you'd put that up there, something like that.
This is going to keep going and going.
Yeah.
So I think this is definitely getting us on the right track here.
So you can see that over 20 years of collecting words, phrases, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yes.
Sometimes, I've got one that says Beyonce yourself, which means, if you're about to walk on stage, I can see that Beyonce yourself on the mirror and I say, walk out like her. Just have fun.
I like that.
Don't overanalyze this. So all the little hooks and guiding points have grown there, and they are all the base of how I can show up.
Yeah.
And to catch me when I'm having a bad day. Sometimes my kids say, can we shower in your shower? And I'm like, you've got your own. And they're going, oh, but you've got more pressure. And that's not true. I know that they want some words. They need some words.
They need words from you.
Yeah, they need words from the mirror.
Got it.
They know there's so much there, and they'll pick something and they'll run with it in their brain.
That's why they want to have the shower. I was trying to think, where's the message in this? Because they want something and they lacking.
Yeah.
No, you're saying they want words on your mirror.
They don't want me
that's
to
why
tell
they want
them,
it in there.
because why are they going to listen to mum?
Yeah.
But
they're being drawn to it.
they're drawn.
Okay, this is what I like. And this easy and effortless part, it all sits in beautifully with flow. You've already described what you think flow is. And in just this conversation has just flown. I really feel like I need to do an unpack on so many points. We could. And if we didn't have other guests coming in afterwards, we could definitely do that. One thing I would like to get from you, just as another massive value takeaway for our listeners and viewers here. And it's like, in your belief, what's a practice, a singular thing that someone can do that if they start doing it today, they are guaranteed to improve their life in terms of both personal and professional endeavors? What is that thing?
It has to be the 3 breaths, doesn't it? So you can be doing that in the supermarket queue, when you're washing your hands, when you wake up, when you turn the shower on, when you're in your car, because the one thing that you can do to change your state is change your breath. So if Nick Kyrgios took some deep breaths and put his shoulders back and didn't slump, he might have a different outcome. It is this self-awareness piece. Happiness is an inside job and breath is your life force. So learn 3 breaths and learn to breathe out to calm your nervous system so that you can read the question or deal with the emotion, or most people are just walking around holding their breaths all day.
Yeah, and look, I can absolutely resonate with that. I engaged a breath coach about 5 years ago, and I didn't used to be able to breathe through my nose just during the day. And at night, that would have been completely worse. I'd wake up with a sore throat almost every day.
Yeah,
I've totally transformed that now, but I've also noticed the benefits of accessing that parasympathetic nervous system.
Correct.
Just the down regulation that can take place and how it transcends so many parts of our lives.
So everything, the way that you view that it's a rainy day, the way that you view that email, the way you view that partner, if you could just calm down and be grateful. Just be grateful for all the things that we have and celebrate where you're at and what you've got right now. You're just going to have a very different life.
I love that. That's a beautiful way to end this great conversation that we've had, Shannah.
My pleasure.
I just can't wait to unpack some of these more things as we carry on. I urge people, is this still for sale, this item?
I think maybe next year, because it all sold out and it's gone to the UK.
So this is going to be right across to Europe now. This beautiful gift. This is a great gift to give someone, a vision board kit, Career and Confidence by Shannah Kennedy. Keep an eye out for this. Keep an eye out for the best-selling books, The Life Plan and Plan B. In particular, Plan B is great for people who have gone through a massive transition, a divorce, bankruptcy,
health scare,
or anything like that. And this one is about what we've been talking about the whole time. Shannah, I feel like we're going to be connected in the foreseeable and the distant future here. Thank you for the value you've brought today. I've enjoyed this thoroughly.
My pleasure. And it's great great conversation with you today.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.